Hey guys, it's your girl Summer and this is the TOUGHCESS Podcast brought to you by Summer Speaks. Over here we are exploring the journeys of different people, understanding the different angles to success so we can all build better and become the greater versions of ourselves. So today I have an amazing person with me, Laurie.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. So, guys, Laurie is a good friend of mine. She's so lovely, so sweet, and she has an amazing story to tell. So today we're just going to have a little chit chat and we're going to just get to know a bit about you and just hear an amazing story you have for the people as well. It is like, I don't know, I guess it's something that is just... it will be educative and it might move some people as well. So, just a little disclaimer. But yeah, how are you feeling, girl?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm really happy to be here. And I mean, it's been a while since I've seen you too. So I'm really glad to see your face again.
Oh, honestly, she's the sweetest, guys. Like, I'm just like, boring. But yeah, as you guys can, well, maybe you guys might hear her accent. I don't know where you guys are probably thinking she's from.
Australia or New Zealand.
New Zealand, something like that. Where are you from, Laurie?
I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa.
Ooh. I love that. So obviously you was born in Johannesburg.
Yeah.
Raised there. How was that for you? Like just your time at Johannesburg and everything.
Yeah, to be honest, I absolutely loved growing up in South Africa. I never really thought I'd ever move, but here I am.
Here you are, ma'am. Here you are. Oh my gosh. And like, it is a big jump going from like, I don't know, literally South Africa.
Yeah, it's chalk and cheese.
Yeah, literally. And like, obviously, I'm sure you get a lot like, oh, I didn't know you were South African, or like, all that stuff. How do you like react to stuff like that?
Oh, you know what? I'm so used to it. I almost expect it now.
Yeah.
But I get really excited when people actually realize they get it first. They're like, oh, are you from South Africa?
Yeah.
I actually get really excited about that. I'm like, yeah. Like, because I usually get either, are you from Australia? Are you from New Zealand?
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like meeting new people and sharing my story.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously we're both in the mental health field. Like that's where we kind of met, and it was so nice, guys. Like, you know what? I was working with you for a minute, but it was literally a minute. But I don't know, for some reason, it was so weird how we connected, So weird. I think it was like we connected on the basis of frustration. Yeah. Like, these lot are taking the piss. These lot are very mad. And but and obviously with us just being us as well, we just clicked.
Yeah,
and it was
like wow, we have so much in common. Like this girl is.
No, Laurie would be my girl. Like, I would come into work and I would go into her office and I'll look for Laurie.
Take a seat.
Literally, she would be like my therapist. It was so, we had
vice versa.
I missed that so much.
Me
like,
too.
just come in and just having a little chit chat with you or just laughing about something. When you're like at work and you have a difficult day and you just need to debrief.
Yeah.
This is your girl.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah.
But no, I really connect with you just on the fact that you're like such a genuine and like caring person.
Oh, thanks, girl.
And like you just like to give back to people and like, and it shows through your work and everything, which I love.
I think that's where we connected as well. I think you can genuinely tell that you're authentic and you want to help and that's what you're here to do.
Aww.
And I was like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, no, honestly. And then like when you see us outside of work, we're mad.
Yeah.
We are very crazy.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my God. To be honest, you're on the more like chilled side.
Would you say?
We have the other parts of the group that we're not going to mention in this podcast today. That's
Yeah, I think
you know.
compared to some of the others.
You know what I mean?
You know who you are.
You know who you are. If you're watching and listening to this podcast, get it together. Find the grip. But no, I love you guys. I really do. But yeah, obviously, there was a time when we were like just chit-chatting, and I got to know like more about you, like so much. Like you've dealt with so many things that were like very much connected to the things that I've dealt with as well in my life, and just in general, I can learn a lot from you. And you know, when we had them conversations and I got to know your story a bit more, I was like, wow, that is like really interesting. So there was a time where we were talking, and I don't know how this happened. I think I was talking about someone else's experience or something.
Yeah.
And then you were saying like how you can relate because you've been through something similar. And the episode today is, well, it's called "The Pain Was a Symptom of a Deeper Issue." And obviously there's a reason behind that title. Do you want to share this story, like just naturally? Like, do you want to just share? Do you want me to ask you a question?
Where do I begin?
Where do you begin?
Where would you like me to begin?
I guess, okay. First of all, let's give some context. What actually happened to you? Like, what was the experience? What happened?
So, from the age of about... So I was always a really happy-go-lucky person, like I am now. Well, at least, you know, I think I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky person. And then I got to the age of about 13. And I remember waking up one day and just feeling like something wasn't right. From then onwards, I developed quite severe depression, really bad OCD, terrible anxiety, and I went from being this person who, you know, didn't have a care in the world to someone who was not wanting to leave the house very often. I went from being a straight A student as well at school to almost failing. And I just knew that something wasn't right, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And that lasted for about 8 years. And when I was in my second year of university, I was in the middle of my second year midterm exams, and I was by the time I got to university, I was a straight first student again, but I would have to study super hard because I was still experiencing the OCD symptoms, so I still had like all these like thoughts going through my head. So if I wanted to do well, I had to sit down and study.
It's like nothing else mattered in that moment.
And for me, getting a first was like everything. If I got anything under, 75%, it was like the end of the world. And that's not something that, like, now I look back and I think, wow, I'm so not like that at all. There's bigger things in life. But anyway, I was studying towards my mid-year exams, and I got to a week before and I started experiencing a terrible headache. So I took a Nurofen, I went to sleep, and I thought, okay, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'm going to study for this exam. The next day came, I took a Nurofen, I still had the headache, I took a Nurofen, and the headache just wasn't going away. And I had this pain behind my right eye that was making it really difficult for me to open my eye and to actually look at the paper to study. Anyway, I just put it down to extreme stress because I was extremely stressed. And I thought, right, you know what? I'm gonna go to sleep. I kept saying, I'll go to sleep, I'll take some medication, and I'll do it when I wake up. And each time I woke up, the headache was still there. And in fact, it was actually worse. So it got to the night before my exam, and I thought, I cannot go into this exam. If I go into this exam and wing it, my grades are going to drop, and I cannot bear to, just the thought of getting anything under a first. But never mind that, actually the possibility of failing that exam because I wasn't able to study for it was just out of the question for me. So I rang a friend up and I told her about my predicament, and she advised that I go to the A&E. It was a Sunday evening. It was around 7 p.m. and she said, go to the A&E and get them to write you a letter to say that you can't write your exam tomorrow, and ask your university to defer the exam. So I thought, that's a great idea. I'm going to do it. So anyway, I went to the A&E and I said, I've got a really bad migraine. I said, if you please put me on a drip, do whatever you can, but please, can you write me this note? I was seen by a doctor who thankfully saw all the red flags. He asked me if the pain was localized to one side. So I said, yeah, it's just my right eye. So that was, in hindsight, a red flag. He asked me if I was experiencing any nausea with this supposed migraine, and I wasn't. So that was another red flag. And he thankfully said to me, I'm going to send you in for a CT scan. And don't worry, I do this to all the patients that come in presenting with a migraine. So I thought, you know what, I'm here. It's 7-something p.m. at night. I'm writing the exam tomorrow. And if I don't get this letter, it was for me, the end of the world, as I said. So I thought, I'm going to go in, I'm going to have the CT scan, and then I'll get my letter and I'll be on my way. To cut a long story short, they landed up finding a tumor in the middle of my brain that was an estimated 48 hours away from killing me. I was then admitted to ICU where I was for 24 hours. I then had my hair shaved off. I donated it to cancer beforehand. And then I underwent emergency neurosurgery. Upon waking up from my neurosurgery, I remember feeling, after 8 years, like I was back.
Oh, wow. We gotta stop it right there before we go into anything else. Oh my gosh. All of the, the emotions that I felt when you first told me, literally that's how I feel right now. Wow. First of all, you were suffering for 8 years without knowing that you had this tumor that was literally 48 hours away from killing you. And if at all your friend didn't tell you to go and check it, that could have been a different story.
Absolutely. I don't think I genuinely don't think I would be here today telling that story. I always say to my friend when it comes to, it was the 5th of June, 2016, and every single year on the 5th of June, I'll message her to say, today's the day, you know, you saved my life.
Yeah, no, that is, wow. There's so many things that I want to like ask you and like speak about. But first of all, how do you feel like about the fact that that is something that you went through? Like in hindsight, how do you feel now?
It is honestly one of the things I'm most grateful for in my life. And even, I'm not just talking about the fact that I found it and I'm here. I'm talking about the fact that I went through those 8 years and I came out the other side, that I went through that, and that made me the person I am today.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's so crazy how, you know, you was experiencing all these symptoms, you was having your headaches, there were so many things that were like going on, and you didn't even know that it could have even been a bigger thing. Like, did that even cross your mind at any point at all?
Never did I, in a million years, did I think that I had a brain tumor. I did have, as I said, a feeling that something wasn't quite right. For the entire 8 years, I just knew something was wrong. I didn't feel myself, but I never thought that it was a tumor. I thought, along with everyone else, that it was just something that, because I was 13, that it was just down to, you know, becoming an adult, you know, hormonal changes. And yeah, I never would have thought that it was anything
major like that.
Yeah.
And like thinking back to a time where you didn't have the tumor, what were you like? How did you know there was a difference? What was Laurie actually like before the tumor?
So I hadn't ever experienced I hadn't experienced any intense anxiety. I hadn't experienced the feeling of not wanting to get out of bed and face the world and see my friends, see my family. I'd never experienced that, especially for no particular external reason. And when I woke up that day, I still remember it. It was in April 2008.
Wow.
I remember waking up one morning in April and just feeling like I was no longer seeing the world in color. I was seeing it in black and white. It was slightly more dim.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must be difficult, you know, like feeling a shift in yourself, feeling like there's something wrong, but not really pinpointing where it is and what the problem is, and then having to go through all these things and then it getting intense to a point where it's like it's actually physically affecting you at this point. Then you having to go to the hospital about it, you know. I mean, you literally went to the hospital and you had to undergo a surgery that same night.
So it was within 2 days.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I found out that night about the tumor. And I underwent surgery. I found out the next day that I'd have to undergo surgery. And then the following day, I underwent the surgery.
Oh, and like, how did you feel when you actually found out you had a tumor?
So, to be honest, there were two sides of me. I was actually, ironically enough, aiming to become a neuropsychologist. So I was in my undergrad, I was studying psychology and I was studying towards neuropsychology.
Yeah.
So there was one side of me that was actually admittedly quite, like in a nerdish way, quite excited that I got to experience all this. I was like, yeah, I'm having a CT scan, I'm having, I'm having an MRI. This is so cool.
Yeah.
I think that part of me was in a bit of denial as well. But I was terrified. I was terrified that, first of all, that I wouldn't survive because of the high possibility of not surviving. And I was also terrified that if I did survive, that I wouldn't remember anyone.
And does that happen? Like when people undergo these surgeries, they forget people and stuff?
I actually experienced, after the surgery, for about 6 months, I battled with short-term memory loss.
Wow.
So I would be in the middle of a conversation like we are now.
Yeah.
And after about 30 seconds, I'd just stop. I'd forget that we were even speaking. Never mind what we were speaking about. I'd ask, if I was in a conversation with someone I was close to, I'd actually ask if we were even just speaking.
Wow.
But if I was in a conversation with someone I wasn't as comfortable with, I would just continue and nod on and in hopes that
you'll remember.
It wasn't obvious that I had no clue whether we were even having a conversation at all.
Wow, that must have been a lot. And how did your family react to you? This big change literally within 48 hours. You having to go into surgery and finding out about the tumor and everything.
It was tough. It was really tough, and I think one of the hardest parts for me was watching the effect that had on them, because I was actually I was nervous about, as I said, the possibility of death and of not remembering anyone. But I was also quite calm. I was actually accepting of the fact that if I didn't make it, or if I didn't remember anyone, that was just almost meant whatever will be. But seeing my family and their reaction, that really hurt.
Yeah, I can imagine. And because there was so much that changed. It wasn't just you undergoing surgery. It wasn't just you finding out about the tumor. You now have to, basically shave your hair. You have to undergo recovery after that as well. How was that for you? Did they shave your hair that day?
They shaved my hair the day before, the night before my surgery.
Right.
We cut it, we tied it into plaits first, then we cut it, donated that bit to cancer, and then shaved the rest of it. And that was really traumatic.
Yeah, because your hair as a woman is literally everything.
Part of your identity.
Yeah. So just shaving that and everything must have been a lot. And your recovery, what exactly happened after? Because you said you woke up feeling like yourself again, but what was the recovery process like for you?
So although I remember that feeling, I don't remember much after that. I don't remember my days in the hospital. I remember snippets of it. I remember trying to walk after, I don't know how many days it was after the surgery. And I remember hitting my head on the drip that I was holding on to. I don't remember much, to be honest. What I do remember is my neurosurgeon asking me, or actually advising that I take the rest of the year off uni to recover. And I remember thinking to myself, because I had studied and I'd done my own research on the brain because I was so fascinated with it. I remember learning about neuroplasticity and the fact that our brains have the power of rewiring themselves. So I knew that if I were to just take the rest of the year of uni and just pretty much lie there every day, that wasn't going to be beneficial at all. In fact, it could be quite damaging. I knew that our brain is a muscle that needs to be continually exercised. So I remember saying to my surgeon, I remember telling him that I was going to go back to uni in 3 weeks' time when uni went back. And that was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Oh, yeah. And like, just because you went through like obviously a period of not really understanding why you wasn't why you were struggling to concentrate, why things were much difficult for you, and you know you was going through all these different things, and now it's like you can actually just enjoy learning and go back to like just being you again.
Yeah.
And obviously you experienced so many emotions before finding out that you had a tumor, before the surgery. But what about your emotions after? Did you experience any of that kind of depression and like sadness that you felt prior? Or was it like a shift?
There was such a shift. I actually felt the extreme opposite of depression. I felt so grateful to be alive.
Yeah.
And everything, just all the little things, the university exams, the getting the firsts, they were put into perspective. And I realized that I was given a second chance, and these small things like university exams don't actually matter in the grand scheme of things. So I went back to uni with a not so great memory afterwards, not so great short memory. I remember walking into my first test afterwards, after going back, and wondering if I had actually studied for the test as I went to go sit down to write the test. Over time, I retrained my memory, but I remember, despite that, and despite the fact that I may, not do too well in that test, I remember feeling just grateful that I got to be there to write the test again.
Yeah, because you went from like literally panicking about a test, which led you to actually getting that support, and then like coming out of that and feeling okay again.
Yeah.
Wow. Honestly, like you're actually very strong, because I feel like with stuff like this, it could impact you in such a negative way. Like, oh my gosh, like I went through so much during them years, and then came out of it and didn't realize that I had this thing like going on with me. But you dealt with it like really positively. Is there anything that you can say helped you like stay positive during that time, or was it just generally just how you was feeling, like you just generally felt grateful and happy, or was there other factors that were also contributing to you feeling that way?
I think finally understanding why I was feeling that way for so many years, why I was feeling unusually anxious and depressed and just not myself, finally having an answer was really helpful. I also think that being able to, knowing that I had a second chance and realizing how fragile life is after that experience made me realize how menial some things are and how important other things are.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I remember you telling me that you was in a relationship with your husband at the time when you was going through all these things, and obviously you shaved your hair, you had to grow your hair back, you was in hospital for a long period of time, you was experiencing short-term illness, and also your husband wasn't even in South Africa.
Yeah.
Like, girl, you gotta give us a tea on that.
Yeah, so that was definitely one of the factors that got me through as well. Just knowing that I had his support and his love, even though we hadn't met in person.
Oh my gosh, all this time you guys didn't meet?
No, not yet.
Wow.
So 8 months before, in October 2015, we met on a dating app. And we both didn't realize that our radiuses were set to worldwide. And we after 5 minutes or so, one of us realized that one of us went to check the other one's profile. I still to this day don't remember who it was. And there was a message that was sent that said 9,000 miles away.
Oh, wow.
And I remember my now husband saying to me, the first date should be interesting.
Yeah.
and we continued speaking because we just realized that why not?
Yeah.
Why? I was curious as to what life was like here. He's from the UK,
Yeah.
Manchester, born and bred, and he was interested in my life and what it was like in Johannesburg, South Africa. So we continued speaking, and eventually we started FaceTiming and FaceTiming every single night. It would actually get to the point where I would take him to uni with me on my phone and show him around. And I'd take him out to wherever I was, like the mall or out for dinner with me, and I'd show him around, and he'd do the same to me. I met all his family and friends virtually.
Yeah.
And we just got to know each other for, well, it landed up being 13 months before we eventually met in person.
Wow.
But 8 months in, when I found out that I had this tumor, one of my first thoughts was, oh my gosh, if I have got 48 hours to live and I don't tell him how I feel, I need to tell him. So
because all this time you guys were like acting like things going on.
Just chilled,
We're just getting to know someone that's across the world for banter.
Yeah, just speaking almost 24 hours a day.
For no reason.
Yeah.
Everyone's playing dress up and pretending.
But when I told him, I told him about, the tumor and what the doctors had said, and he he actually started crying and said, I was planning on saying it, but he actually started crying and said, you know, I love you.
Aw.
And then I burst out crying and I was like, I love you too. And he was so incredibly supportive. He honestly, he got me through from the other side of the world. He then got I sent him my parents' numbers.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to know how I was doing when I went into surgery. And he got, you know, they immediately fell in love with him. And I actually, he told me afterwards that he was terrified that I wasn't going to remember who he was. But when I woke up, this is another thing that I remember, like a snippet of. I remember waking up and asking to speak to him. And it was about 6 o'clock in the morning when I woke up from my surgery. And I remember saying to my mom, like, I want to speak to Sam. I want to speak to Sam. And she said to me, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. It's 4 o'clock in the morning in the UK.
In the UK.
Like, you'll speak to him later. And obviously, with my short-term memory loss, 2 minutes later, I would say, I want to speak to Sam. I want to speak. Can I speak to him yet? So yeah, with his support and with his love, and that is also something that, as you asked before, were there any other factors? That is definitely a huge factor.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. The love story by itself can be like an episode, because we love Sam, because Sam's a good egg, you know. Sam be taking care of Laurie per. But nah, I love that for you. Like the fact that you guys were like literally not even in the same area. Like, you know, so much could have happened. This guy could have literally been like, well, what's the point?
Yeah. Well, when I first told him, and then I said, you know, and I'm going to have to shave my hair.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And
he's a real one.
Yeah, he is. He is.
He's a real one.
When it came to shaving my hair, I actually made sure that he was there to see it, even if it was virtually, because in my mind, I thought there's no way that anyone, I just thought there's no way that he's going to stick around.
Yeah.
And so I got my aunt to hold the camera while I was on FaceTime and while I was having my hair shaved. And I took the phone afterwards. I was in tears. My whole family was in tears. He was in tears on the other side. And I said to him, this is your out. You know, I said, you don't have to deal with this. And I said, and look at me. And I remember him saying, you know, I don't love you for your hair. Like, your hair's going to grow back. Like, I don't care if it doesn't, you know. You know, and that gave me so much strength to push through and to really get back to where I was before the tumor, minus the low moods and anxiety.
Yeah, and everything. Oh, that is so beautiful though. Like, and you need that. You need people like that in your life. People that accept you exactly for who you are.
Absolutely.
They take, you know, that your journey is their journey. They go through the highs and the lows with you, because a lot of the times, you know, you'll have people that will stick around when it's good, but when it gets low, they're nowhere to be found, you know. So, like, the fact that you was getting to know this guy and he was literally across the world from you, like, literally, like, you guys would only just FaceTime and stuff. He was still there for you.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. And again, another thing to be grateful for. And I love how you mentioned that you was like so grateful after, because there is so much to be grateful for in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at, you know, what I went through and everything I went through, but that is past tense, you know. What that was then, look at all the great that has come from it.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, and I guess it just like, I think the reason why I really, really wanted you to share your story on the podcast is, first of all, for people to pay attention to the signs.
Yeah.
When something is not right, you know yourself more than anybody. You know when something just doesn't feel okay, whether it is, because a lot of people, for example, go undiagnosed, not even like, let's say that is a really serious case, you having a tumor, but some people have autism, they don't realize they have autism. Some people are actually diagnosed with depression from like really young because of an imbalance in their brain. Like, so many people go through so many different things and they don't even know. And they just think that they're doing something wrong, or there's something just, people might have a different perception of them, but it might be the pain is a symptom of a deeper issue.
Absolutely.
You know? So, like, thank you so much for sharing your story. That is like so empowering, and there's so much to learn from it. And the fact that you came out of it just uplifted and feeling like yourself again. That is beautiful. And obviously, years later, you're in the UK. You live in the UK now. You're married to Sam. Everything is like, you know, going well. And I'm really, really happy for you. Yeah. So, like, what advice would you give to anyone that is, like, going through something difficult? Because obviously, you don't have to talk about it on the podcast, but there's so many things you've gone through. Not just the tumor. There's other things you know, you've suffered grief, like loss. You know.
Well, this is a whole
that's a podcast in itself. So that one we're not even gonna get into it. But you have so much wisdom to give, and you have so much to say, and like, you know, just to anyone out there that is going through a difficult time, or feel like they're not themselves, or just they have gone through the tumor and or anything, what advice would you give to them?
This too shall pass. It's not forever. It's not temporary. It is temporary. It will all be okay in the end. Everything. I'm such a big believer that everything happens for a reason, and you will look back at this eventually and be grateful for the pain, because without the pain that I endured, I would not be here today. I would not be the person I am today without the lessons that I learned from the pain. So hang tight and everything will be okay. And one day you will look back at the pain and feel grateful that it occurred.
Oh, that's beautiful. So beautiful. I know a lot of people will relate to that, and whether it is like an illness that they're going through, something that's undiagnosed, something that is diagnosed, or just having a tough time in their life at the moment, it will pass, you know. And I love that saying, because everything is temporary, just like seasons are, just like summer goes into, you know, another season, it passes, you know, winter goes into another season, it passes. And you just have to just embrace every single moment.
And we need the winter to appreciate the summer. You know, we need those bad times to appreciate when we've overcome them.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why you can comfortably sit down and, like, you know, we can have this conversation, and it's just, you know, it's you looking back, and that is such a blessing, just being able to look back at a time in your life where things weren't like the greatest, but you came out of it stronger. So yeah, I'm so proud of you, girl.
Aw,
I'm all
thank
mic'd
you.
up, but I'd give you like a really big hug. But you know how I feel about you, and I'm so grateful to have met you, because you're someone that is like, honestly, such an amazing person, and you pour love into everything that you do. And you know what you were saying before, I used to worry so much about first and everything, and I was such a perfectionist. Guys, she is still a perfectionist.
I just don't worry about it
She
as
just
much.
doesn't worry about it. Guys, me and Laurie, we will send an email. I will draft the email. The girl will come back and she'll be like, Summer, not gonna lie, the comma.
The comma, it's all about the commas in the right place.
The comma needs to be here, and you gotta switch it up and put this there.
But you know what? If you don't, it's not the end of the world.
Exactly.
That's the thing. I'm still a perfectionist, but there's no anxiety that goes with it. I know that if it's not perfect, it is not the end of the world.
Absolutely.
There are bigger and better things.
Exactly. No, I just love you, Laurie. Thank you
Oh,
so
love you too,
much for
girl.
coming onto the podcast. I know, like, it being a visual podcast, you might have felt a bit nervous, but I'm glad people got to see your pretty face.
You might have seen me like twitching a bit.
But no, I'm so happy you came on and you shared your story. Guys, if I look gone, it's because I'm fasting, and yeah. But we always finish the podcast with one question, which is, what word would you use to describe your toughcess? So, you know, the podcast is called TOUGHCESS. What word would you use to describe yours?
Gratitude.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's what got me through, and that's what gets me through.
Gratitude. Oh, I love that. Well, on that note, guys, it has been a pleasure listening to Laurie's story. I hope you guys have taken something from it, and just, you know, I think it's just important for you to just always check in with yourself. If you're not okay, go and see what the problem is, and you know, there's a solution to everything. Like Laurie said, this too shall pass if you are going through something. But yeah, thank you for listening as always. Go check me out on Apple, on Spotify, YouTube, all that great stuff. There's amazing things to come. So thank you once again, sis.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you.